So now I'm not driving, and I ate a bunch of cheapy burgers, but my mom gave me a card that I used to pay for it. Hopefully, all hell doesn't break loose because of that shit. It really could. Evil mana. So to continue with the Death Star, what I'm getting at with these suits that the Stormtroopers wear and Darth Vader wears, and it applies to all of the fleet. It's not just the Death Star. So the way that an air conditioner works, in order to transfer energy from one place to another, it pumps gas to varying pressures to enable heat to always disperse in order for the energy to move from one place to the next. So even if it's cooler over here, then you want it to be over here, and you want to take this cooler space and take the heat energy out of that space and put it into the warmer place. You can pump all of the gas in the cooling coils to a really high pressure, and now that it's at very high pressure, the energy density goes up. As the material density goes up, the energy density goes up, and heat can disperse from the higher temperature into the lower temperature, and then when that gas expands back into the other coil, now it's at a lower temperature than it was, and the heat can disperse from the cooler room into the colder coil, and then they can compress the gas that was in the coil there back up into the other coil, so that the energy density goes up, and the heat is now higher temperature than even the warmer space, and the energy can transfer from warmer to cooler, but actually be leaving the cooler space and going into the warmer space. So this is how waste heat recovery machines basically work as well. They need everything to be at a high temperature in the middle, but in order to achieve that, they pump up the pressure towards that center, and then to collect the energy, they lower the pressure, so the energy density goes way down, and then the pipes over here can be very cold, and energy can transfer from warmer to cooler into the cold pipes, and they can pump up the gas. Well, one issue that we have today is that the pipes have to be everywhere. I mean, there just has to be pipes everywhere. So one way to work around that would be that if there just was no pipes, you don't need any pipes, you just dramatically change the air pressure in the whole room. So if you're in an Imperial spaceship, there will be some spaces where they don't do that, like where the officers are all seen just in uniforms. But there will be lots of workspaces where lots of jobs need to happen, where they, in order to make their machine work, they need to raise the pressure of that room significantly and very suddenly. And then they need to drop the pressure in that room significantly and very suddenly. And then they might even need to vacuum out the space to a perfect vacuum, at times, in order to make the energy production process efficient. So the person who's going to be sitting in that space working, they need to be able for the room to change from 250 degrees, 450 degrees. There can't be any paper. It'll start on fire, and then in maybe even seconds, it needs to be vacuumed out into a vacuum, and they'll just be sitting in the room and there's no air. Or the air needs to be cooled suddenly, and a whole bunch of really cold air needs to blast into the room, and it'll drop below freezing in the room, and they need to be able to work a regular day. They just need to be able to ignore it. They can't be doing special things like leaving the space. They need to be managing their task. They need to be doing their job. They need to stay right there. And the air can't be something that they're concerned with when they're doing their job. In order for this to happen, you would need a very impressive environment suit, like many video games have people wearing, where the suit is temperature controlled, and in this case, maybe even vacuum sealed, so that the individual who's in the suit can be in a rapidly changing temperature and pressure environment, and the ship can recover its energy and run efficiently, and they can be at the different places they would need to be in order to do the jobs that they will need to do. Which probably won't involve any paper of any kind. So, the stormtrooper suits and Vader's suit and the other various suits where the trooper is enclosed are probably, first, just the minimum requirement to allow them to function within the power plant that they work in, which hyperdrive ships are probably a power plant, and a popular empire would need to be very environmentally friendly. They couldn't just be collecting up all the fuel everywhere, you know. They would need to be making things stretch very long ways. All of their energy would be very important. They would need the absolute most efficient engines out of anybody around, so it might be way more expensive, but their ion drives, you know, they're not as good of engines, but they just barely use any power, so they're the best thing around for the Empire, who's going to be going around and doing lots of jobs that they can't be driving up all the gasoline, basically. So adding armor qualities to the Stormtrooper suit, they might not even need to do it. I mean, just what makes the suit function for the work environment might even include the plastic armor plates that the Stormtrooper is made of, because it has properties, and they're going to be rubbing up all of their otherwise delicate parts of their machinery that they're wearing. And, you know, it's perfectly imaginable that what the Stormtroopers are wearing, it might not have anything to do with battle and still need to look exactly the way that it does in the movie for them to have an effective piece of equipment. So by the time the Stormtrooper is taking blasts to their chest plate and their armor didn't seem to work at all, well, it could be that they're not really wearing battle armor. They're just wearing what's an effective environment suit for their work environment. Now, Darth Vader, same thing. His equipment allows him to go and do very important work in his engineering environment, and he is a major player in the engineering of the station's designs and the ship's designs. You know, he's a brilliant engineer. From young childhood, he was one of the best, you know, electromechanical minds. So, in order for things to really run efficiently, they need management, you know, that's close at hand. And so Vader needs two things. He does need his life support systems that keep him alive during his physical trauma, But then he also needs to be able to be in a space that's going to be enduring these very harsh conditions without it affecting his work. He needs to be right there anywhere that a stormtrooper is going to be. So it's perfectly imaginable that these suits that the Empire is running around in basically none of their design was fundamentally oriented at warfighting. Basically, the whole design of their suit would have been essential without any warfighting. So they are actually just, they need to wear those kinds of suits that basically look exactly that way in order for their power plants to work efficiently.